About to leave Cleveland. Seriously, the challenge is on. If I have to wait at the gate for my plane, I have lost. The goal is to walk straight onto the plane and have it pushed back and leave. For that reason, we're talking 49ers, maybe a little 49ers Browns, maybe 49ers big picture. They've got the most wins in the NFC. We're talking that all the way up until I have to get my ride. I'm going to order a Lyft or an Uber while I'm live today. Big picture for the 49ers looks like this. Just pulled this from PFF online. You guys know my XY chart with offense and defense. I take that from Ben Baldwin and I put arrows on it. Well, here there are clusters of teams. You can see that the 49ers are in that middle circle, and the goal would be to get to the green circle on the right. I would argue, based on what we've seen over the course of the past 3 weeks, that the 49ers, when Brock Purdy is playing for this football team, with the defense that they've displayed over the past 3 weeks against weaker offenses, I'll grant that, but it still has been really good defense for the 49ers. I would argue that they're already in that green circle, which firmly puts them into Super Bowl contention. Now, the offense, this is cumulative, right? So you've got the games that are more recent are weighed a little bit more heavily, but you've still got a lot of a Mac Jones sample accounting for this. And the defense, that's the y-axis vertical. Also cumulative, so the 49ers are starting to move up. But as you saw my arrow a couple weeks ago, the orange arrow moving to the right and up, that's the direction the 49ers are headed. And I would argue that if you only isolated the past 3 weeks, they'd already be in that green circle on the right. In fact, I've got proof for that. The 49ers over the past 3 weeks, that's since Arizona, since Brock Purdy returned, their offense ranks number 7 in the league in EPA per play, 0.068 expected points added per play. But their defense, this is crazy. 49ers defense, ever since the game against the Cardinals, is negative 0.134 EPA per play, expected points added per play, defensive efficiency. You want to be in the negatives. A lower number is better on defense. If extrapolated over the course of the full season, the 49ers defensive performance over the past 3 weeks would rank number 1 in the entire NFL. Now, it helps that they got to play the Cardinals. They got to play the Carolina Panthers, although I can't say that too loudly because the Panthers just hung 31 on the Rams yesterday, and then they got to play Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. So it hasn't been a murderer's row of offenses whom the 49ers have faced. But still, the fact that they were able to deliver number 1 efficiency over this 3-game stretch leads me to at least, if I were a 49ers fan, I'd at least have some hope that this could be a number 15 defense, a number 16 defense against better teams. And the 49ers will be facing some better offenses down the stretch run of this season. Not coming right out of the bye week, though. It's the Tennessee Titans, who might be the very worst offense in all of football, or the Browns. The 49ers faced them yesterday. That was not good. And, I got to open with this. Brock Purdy has extreme arm talent. The narrative on Purdy could not be more incorrect when it comes to his physical characteristics. First, I think people were wrong for a long time at the start of his career about his mobility. And that mobility is elite. Like the 10-yard split we know is elite, but his ability to feel pass rushers, his ability to adjust his body, contort his body, and then use the properties of that 10-yard split to burst in short areas away from pass rushers is top shelf. Yesterday, the Browns pressured Brock Purdy on 58% of his snaps. He was sacked only once. That is an insane pressure to sack ratio. Brock Purdy actually leads the league in pressure to sack ratio. But the difference yesterday, and the media will never tell you this outside of me, but the difference yesterday between Purdy and Shedeur Sanders, the most pronounced one, was the arm strength. When they were moving, both quarterbacks, when they were moving to the east, that was against the wind, which was howling off of Lake Erie, gusts of up to 40 miles per hour. Shedeur Sanders threw nothing but ducks. There that one that the 49ers almost intercepted as Sanders rolled to his right and then heaved one downfield. And the thing looked like a wounded animal fluttering through the air, and it just died about 20 yards downfield. And, I mean, it didn't surprise me because he was throwing against the 40-mile-an-hour wind. But Brock Purdy made several throws against that wind, including one deep one to George Kittle at the end of the first half that just knifed through it. And that was strong, strong wind. I showed you guys the conditions here in Cleveland. We did content from the street here in Cleveland. Now I'm in the warmth of the hotel room because I didn't feel like going back outside. It's like 29 degrees with a wind chill of 13 here. So we'll just take the ride straight to the airport and get on out of town. But the Purdy passes yesterday heading east against the wind on that field, the media is not going to talk about them outside of this channel, but, you know, they are worth analyzing. George Kittle thinks that if the wind hadn't been blowing in as strong as it was on his deep catch, then it would have been a touchdown. He was still very, very impressed that Purdy was able to get it out to him essentially in stride. He dropped into the bucket for George Kittle. But there were other throws in that direction where Purdy used the width of the field. There was this idiotic narrative that Purdy couldn't throw outside the numbers for a long time. I think some people still hold it because they don't know what they're watching or they don't watch at all. But there were field stretching throws to Ricky Pearsall to set up that George Kittle play, to Juwan Jennings outside the numbers. These are throws on a football field, mind you, that is 53 1/3 yards wide. Football fields are a lot wider than I think most people realize, just because it's a little bit of an optical illusion when you see how long it is. It's 120 yards, including the end zone. But when you're at a game in person, especially at the viewing angle that I had, I wasn't quite at midfield. I had a little bit more of a corner view at what was going on. You could see just how wide that field is. And Brock Purdy absolutely took advantage of that width. And it took some real arm strength to get the ball out to the sideline against that wind yesterday in Cleveland. And the throws that I'm talking about, the Pearsall and to Juwan Jennings. There was one further downfield to George Kittle as well. And then obviously the deep one to George Kittle. Those were throws that I don't think Shedeur Sanders had the arm capability to make yesterday. And, you know, that's it, because I saw the duck that he threw. I saw the ducks that he threw when he was moving toward the east side of the field. And I don't mean to just pick on Shedeur, but that was the quarterback who was playing in the same conditions as Brock Purdy yesterday. And the difference was stark. It was night and day between these two quarterbacks when it came to who was able to handle the wind and who wasn't. And that's before we get to Purdy's processing power and Purdy's sack escape ability. I mean, it was a truly elite performance, and he was facing the better defense yesterday because, as we know, the Browns, that is a top 5 unit through and through. It was the most points that Browns defense had given up this year. Let's take a look into the 49ers locker room. They always shoot this really cool video of Kyle Shanahan talking to the team. Think it's time to check in on that.
We talked earlier in the week. We had to win a game away. We hadn't done it yet this year, man. What I was trying to word is exactly how that whole game went, dude. They got in the end zone once all day. All right, if a team gets in the end zone once all day, we don't turn it over on offense. Special teams, you get a turnover. D, you get a turnover. I think we saw them 3 times on 4th down. Yep. Sky, big time play though, man. Everybody across the board, man. Full team win. All right, we knew what it was going to be. You guys laid it on the line. We earned it. Appreciate everybody here.
Oh. Niners on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Nice. Complimentary football. Kyle Shanahan's got to oversee the whole operation. And then, you know, I'll go back to the efficiency chart. This doesn't include special teams. And the 49ers now have the best special teams unit in the league. I mean, that is, I said yesterday, it's the biggest plot twist of this 2025 NFL season. They were worst last year. They looked like the Cleveland Browns special teams last year. Did you see the Browns catching a kickoff, stepping out of bounds at the 5 immediately? Like, what the hell was he doing? Muffing a punt, giving up the big return, the 66-yarder to Sky Moore that Kyle Shanahan talked about. All those plays were happening against the 49ers in recent years. They were the team that dreaded special teams. Now, if you're a 49ers fan, you should probably be borderline excited when special teams jogs onto the field. I mean, Sky Moore seems to have a chance every single time that he touches the ball, and it's not just Sky who gets credit for that. The blocking has been so cohesive. I watched the tape of the punt return this morning. Saran Neal did an amazing job with his block. Everything was moving full speed towards Sky Moore. An amazing job letting up and avoiding a clip, but still essentially obstructing the would-be tackler so he couldn't get into the lane. Darrell Luter Jr. had a nice block, and then he recovered the muff punt later. That's not easy to do, by the way. That happens bang, bang, to be able to cleanly field it. Good job by Darrell Luter Jr. Nick Martin had a big, thunderous block for the 49ers on the Sky Moore punt return. Luke Gifford, a nice block, and Marquise Siegel also did a good job obstructing. It is really, really hard in the very narrow window of time that you have on some of these punt returns to properly obstruct a would-be tackler without a hold, without a clip. I mean, that's why punt returns in this league, you don't see too many big ones because it's so thoroughly charted now. They have spray charts for all the punters. They know exactly where the ball is going to go. The punters are kicking at such a high accuracy level now that generally you can blanket the field with coverage, but that there is a sliver if you've got a decisive, explosive return man. And if you've got a cohesive blocking unit, you can make some stuff happen. And that's exactly what the 49ers did on that 66-yard punt return for Sky Moore. So when you factor, I know we can't make this three-dimensional. I wish somebody, I'm not as good with the data and the data presentation as Ben Baldwin and PFF and some of these guys. If they're listening, if they can make a three-dimensional one of these that also accounts for special teams, that illustrates where these football teams are, because we only have offense and defense on this team tier chart, then I would very much appreciate it, because the 49ers special teams, as Trent Williams said yesterday, is their ace in the hole. And you cannot, but the 49ers have been on the wrong side of this, so you cannot overstate how important that is, because being on the wrong side of it was a true learning experience for San Francisco over several years. They hired Brant Boyer to get it fixed, and boy, has he ever fixed it. It has been impressive work from Brant Boyer. How about Matt Gay kicking in Cleveland for the first time in his career? And he told me, I talked to him in the locker room, he said that the wind did the opposite of what you thought it was going to do when he was kicking at the end of the half going east. So that was in the direction of the tough throws in that game against the wind. That made it all the more impressive that Brock Purdy was able to knife through that wind, because Matt Gay said when he kicked that ball, it was a short kick after the George Kittle catch. He was expecting it to blow in, and instead it blew out. I guess it was swirling coming in off the lake. There's a little gap there in the stadium. On the other side of the stands, the same side of the field as where George Kittle caught the football. The lake is right there, one of the Great Lakes, Lake Erie. And then that thing, I would not swim in that thing. Maybe in the summer I would, but I would not swim in that thing at this time of the year. It looks violent. I am not scared of San Francisco Bay. I will go no wetsuit any time of the year. Screw the sharks, whatever. I'll swim to Alcatraz. I'll swim under the Golden Gate. I'll do all that, but I would not get into Lake Erie. That thing looked scary. I mean, it looked cold. I mean, that wind was just coming off. I mean, you think San Francisco's windy. You think San Francisco can be chilly. Just try Cleveland. Just try one of these cities on one of the Great Lakes from November through March. Probably November through February would be the worst. But wintertime, right off the Great Lakes, those are treacherous conditions, and Matt Gay was able to kick right through them. He hit the upright. The wind was doing something completely unexpected, but that's what experience helps you with in the NFL as a kicker. Well, if he has to come back to Cleveland one day, I think that he's going to be much more ready for that unexpected wind coming in off of Lake Erie. All right, so up on the San Francisco Standard, we have this. Brock Purdy smiled and danced his way past Myles Garrett and the NFL's top D line. Garrett spoke yesterday that there's a lot of respect from Myles Garrett toward Brock Purdy. Now, it's funny. It's a tale of respect and disrespect. How about we play the tale of respect from this Cleveland Browns team first? By the way, that article, put it back up on the stage right here. You can go check it out. It is in the description. Maybe Mike can copy and paste it and put it into the chat section, because I would like you to read it. that is up on the San Francisco Standard. It's the best 49ers coverage that exists. So go check that out. That's on Brock Purdy and Company. Now, speaking of Brock Purdy and Company, why don't we look at a story of respect? This is Myles Garrett on Brock Purdy, indirectly referencing Brock's NFL-leading pressure-to-sack ratio.
Yeah, I feel like there were a lot of ops. Well, there seemed like a lot of ops, with how close it was. But, he likes getting out on time, or, he sees me and credit to him, he also avoided the rush pretty well, too. So him getting the ball out on time, them having a solid unit as well, chipping, those kind of things. They were doing what they do best.
It looks like you said something to him one time when you got close. What did you, can you share that with us?
It was something like, just give me another one.
Just give me another one. Just give me another chance. He was begging Brock Purdy for a chance to sack him. Brock Purdy only gave him one opportunity, and it wasn't Brock Purdy giving that opportunity. It was Myles Garrett just blowing right by Trent Williams. I mean, it was a hell of a move. The fact that Purdy was only sacked once despite being pressured on 58% of his dropbacks, that is an absolutely insane number. It's an elite number. Almost every other quarterback, I would say probably every other quarterback in the game. And I'm talking even the quick guys like Lamar Jackson would have been sacked more than Brock Purdy. Purdy is literally the best at avoiding sacks in the entire league. That is what the tape tells us. That is what the data tells us. Facts matter more than your feelings in this case. And he's just got great spatial awareness. I get that the 10-yard split is elite for Brock Purdy, but the sense that he has for what's going on around him. There was a play where it looked like Myles Garrett had him corralled for sure. He went around the hoop, around Trent Williams at left tackle. I would say for any other quarterback in the league, it's a likely sack on that play. And somehow Purdy got the ball away to Kyle Juszczyk. He frustrated Myles Garrett several times just with throwaways yesterday. And sometimes a throwaway is the winning play. And, I think the 49ers have been trying to drill that in Brock Purdy's head occasionally, that he'll take some chances downfield, obviously, that will pay off in a big way. And he probed for those chances yesterday, but he was so under control and in command of the proceedings that even that one late in the game when he rolled to the left and then reset himself and looked downfield, fired to Ricky Pearsall, it was incomplete in the side of the end zone. Even that one particular play, Purdy did not put the ball in harm's way. Everything yesterday was a perfect analysis of risk versus reward, and then a throw that matched the calculus. And obviously against the Carolina Panthers the week before, there had been the 3 interceptions. I don't think that the risk reward was in line for Brock Purdy that week on those 3 picks, especially on 2 of them. I think that the 49ers defended him after Kyle Shanahan said, yeah, he went the right place. And I think that, if what they said was true, that he went to the right spot with the ball, which the film does indicate that the plays did say that those were the progressions that Brock Purdy should have read in that order, then maybe the 49ers' entire risk-reward calculus was out of whack against Carolina. Maybe they were experimenting against the Panthers, but they had so much more respect for this Cleveland defense. They knew that they could not get away with brazen experimentation. Shanahan knew it. Purdy knew it. You saw that they were on the same page. They took profits when they were there. They took chances that were worth it when they were there. Purdy did not put the ball in harm's way, and he got away from those sacks. It was a true masterclass of a performance from Brock Purdy. There were a couple plays that really stood out to me that I have to highlight. First drive that set up the Christian McCaffrey touchdown run. They faced a 3rd and 8 from the red zone where the spaces are more condensed, and Cleveland brought a blitz. And remember that Kyle Shanahan had not beaten Jim Schwartz, the Browns defensive coordinator, since 2008, since their first meeting as coordinators in a 13-12 game. So it's not like he had a lot of offensive success against Jim Schwartz ever. But Schwartz dialed up a blitz against Shanahan and Purdy. Purdy beautifully ID'd the blitz, and he had Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield on the angle route. And with that pass rush bearing down hot on him, he got rid of the football. It was a great throw to McCaffrey. First down, set up the touchdown. Later on, Mason Graham, the first-round pick out of the University of Michigan, absolutely drilled Purdy on another third down in the red zone. This was going the other direction. This was against the wind. And Purdy, as he was getting hit, just rifled a bullet to George Kittle, who made the catch about 15 yards downfield. I mean, arm talent for Brock Purdy has never been the issue. And anybody who tries to tell you that, anybody who has tried to tell you that in the past, just does not know what they're watching. They are a casual observer with an opinion that probably should not be broadcast. I saw a ton of it coming out of the game against Carolina. A lot of people thought that the interceptions were some kind of arm strength issue. They weren't for Brock Purdy. They were a risk-reward issue that might go all the way up to Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if that game was called correctly. I was highly critical of that. I thought that the 49ers should have stuck with the underneath passing since Carolina was giving it to them, but also it was a timing issue against the Panthers. Purdy obviously fixed both of those issues, but trouble with the arm, trouble with the drive downfield, even with the toe injury, was never a thing against Carolina the week before. It was not a thing against Arizona for Brock Purdy. So just put that in your heads, because we saw Purdy take on that 40-mile-an-hour wind and ferocious pass rush with no problem yesterday, whereas Shedeur Sanders, when he was throwing in the same direction, just a bunch of ducks for Shedeur Sanders, including the one that he tried to throw the furthest way downfield. All right, we got some numbers. I mean, speaking of the pressure that Purdy faced, one more look at Myles Garrett. I've got to get some statistics up on the screen for you. So just give me 1 second as I get this ready. This is from Pro Football Focus this morning. So these are the pressures allowed by the 49ers offensive line. Burford, 4. Trent Williams, 4. Colton McKivitz, 3. Jake Brendel, 2. Dominic Pooney, 2. That's quite a bit of pressure given up by the 49ers offensive line. Myles Garrett had 8 pressures. Cleveland's 58% pressure rate was the highest in 3 years. And that's a pass rush that consistently gets after the quarterback. That includes the game where the Browns beat the 49ers in 2023. Yet Purdy took only that 1 sack. Now, a couple notes on the 49ers offensive line. One being that Ben Barch hurt his foot. We're going to hear from Kyle Shanahan later today, but Barch and Spencer Burford had been splitting snaps at that left guard position, and now it's going to be Burford 100% of the snaps until Ben Barch comes back. Maybe Barch is back and they could continue splitting the snaps coming out of the bye week. Remember that the 49ers now do not play for 13 days. They next play the Tennessee Titans in mid-December. They've finally reached that week 14 bye. But the 49ers had a nice rotation going there at left guard. They may not be able to continue having that rotation going. The highest graded 49ers pass blocker was Dominic Pooney. Gave up only 2 pressures. I also will have to say that Jake Brendel had some nice run blocking in this game. That's another player who's taken a lot of heat, but people omit the fact that he played through a knee injury last year. And Jake Brendel is much healthier for San Francisco this season, and I think that he's really hitting his stride. I know he dealt with the hamstring injury that kept him out of for a few weeks. The 49ers got good play in his stead from Matt Hennessy, but Brendel is playing good football for San Francisco now. It was the offensive tackles for the 49ers who had the toughest time yesterday, understandably so, because Myles Garrett is one of the greatest defenders of all time. I got the D-line pressures for San Francisco. Let's get these up on the screen. That guy right there, that's Keon White. If you don't think the 49ers didn't improve ahead of the trade deadline, think again. They added Keon White. They added Cleveland Farrell. Those guys combined for 8 pressures, which is the amount of pressures that Myles Garrett had in yesterday's game. Keon had the sack, and the sack was generated rushing from the inside. When the 49ers first traded for Keon White, I talked about him as a Charles Omenihu type of player as far as what role he would have. 49ers would try to rush him against the inside. I talked about Keon as, the Arden Key had done it before for the 49ers. Yetur Gross-Matos has done it, and Yetur Gross-Matos might be back after the bye week. That could be huge for the 49ers. The thing about Keon, though, is unlike Charles Menahu, who's a little bit of a rangier player, like a little bit of a longer arms than Keon White, Keon's got a little bit more suddenness and a little bit more power to him. And you see it on some of the run stops. Even when he's playing inside, the 49ers can defend the run with some power and suddenness that you don't typically see from a player of Keon White's size. Like when somebody's 260, 270 on the inside, that could generally be a mismatch, but he's got a lot of power in that frame. And he had a couple like very, very rigid run stops yesterday that I thought were key to the 49ers adjustments against the run, because Cleveland did have that 90-yard drive with 9 runs in the second quarter. The 49ers had to bounce back from that, and they bounced back from it in a big way. The more often that Keon can line up on the inside, the more his special set of physical characteristics can shine. And yesterday, that one sack came being lined up on the inside. Now, the 49ers, that they gave up what? It was some kind of 6-7 pick swap. It might be a conditional 7th. They didn't give up a lot to pick up Keon White. The 49ers didn't give up anything to sign Clelin Ferrell, who is at the top of the pressure list there with 4. He had 2 sacks for San Francisco yesterday. The 49ers also didn't give up anything to sign Eric Kendricks, who's a linebacker. I saw him in the locker room yesterday, so he did make the trip with the 49ers to Cleveland. They signed him just this past week. I think that Eric Kendricks can end up being the Clelin Ferrell signing of the linebacking core. Ferrell was initially a practice squad signing for the 49ers. Eric Kendricks, initially a practice squad signing for the 49ers. Eric Kendricks, 138 tackles just last year for the Cowboys. All-Pro in 2019. So you know that cerebrally, he's plugged in. He was a good run stopper for Dallas last year. He has fallen off in pass coverage, but the 49ers need to make sure that they stay above all else on top of things against the run. I think that the dangers of being bad against the run were very well illustrated by that long touchdown drive from the Cleveland Browns following the 49ers punt on the 4th and 3 or 4th and 4. 9 straight runs for Cleveland. That was the one point in this game where things got a little bit sketchy, and then the Browns even took the lead on the 2-point conversion. And I think that some of the linebacker play from the 49ers, down Fred Warner, down Curtis Robinson, the team knew that entering this game. That's why they signed Eric Kendricks over the week. That can be ameliorated by a veteran signing, and the veteran signing is the former All-Pro Eric Kendricks, who is going to have some time to acclimate to this 49ers defense over the bye week. What else do we got? Well, I said this yesterday. I'll put it back up on the screen. 49ers first win in Cleveland since 1984. That also came a week after Joe Montana threw multiple interceptions, a career-high 4 interceptions in a home win. That was against the Bengals, and then Montana turned around and led the 41-7 victory for San Francisco. And I know I was talking about Keon White a little bit earlier. Maybe I could talk about Keon White some more. You could see that the pathways of his pass rushes. Here, you've got the green is a pressure, blue is a sack. As you can see, blue and 3 other pressures counted by NFL Next Gen Stats. They counted 6. PFF counted 4. They have different definitions of pressure, but 4 out of Keon White's 6 pressures, according to NFL Next Gen Stats, came from a defensive tackle interior alignment, including the sack right here up the middle. 49ers had an intriguing NASCAR package yesterday. The 4 defensive ends. You had Keon White and Kalia Davis in the middle, Bryce Huff and Clelin Ferrell on the outside. They were also down Sam Okawanu, who suffered a high ankle sprain on Monday Night Football against the Carolina Panthers. How much time do we have? We got an hour and 18 minutes before my plane takes off. We have 48 minutes until it begins boarding. We're 15 minutes from the airport. So I think I can continue running this show for a little bit. I've got to check the ride sharing app, make sure that rides are still available in the city of Cleveland. They are. It currently is not snowing outside, so that's good. Yes, I've showed you so much cool stuff here from Cleveland. I always eat really well. in Cleveland. That's one of the things that this place is all about. And I have to give one more shout out to Slyman's because they inspired Deli Board. Slyman's on the right, Deli Board in San Francisco on the left. Those of you who like the food portion of these travels, so I'm sure you like this. Take a look at that mountain of meat. Now, this is the 49er Deli Board. Adam is from Cleveland, and he has modeled his sandwiches in large part after Slyman's, but they're better in San Francisco. Kind of like the football team is better in San Francisco because of the Dutch Crunch bread. Look at that. So I had a good time eating here. I always do. I know I showed you yesterday, and I could show you guys again. The Good Company, they're the go-to spot that I head to every single time I am in Cleveland. They've got a really, really good burger, like elite burger and elite fries. They spend 6 hours a day making their French fries, and they also have an in-house bakery. And the bakery will make these pretzel rolls. It'll make the really soft bun that you saw on the burger. I mean, the rolls, when you zoom in on them, and then you dip them in 2 types of cheese. I mean, Cleveland's got it figured out. I guess they have to eat when it gets so cold here. But they've really got it figured out. I mean, this I ate a lot. And these are the fries that take 6 hours to make. Finally, back to the burger and that roll. That's the in-house bakery takes care of that. So if you ever find yourself in Cleveland, you can go check out the sandwich that inspired Adam over at Deli Board, and you could also check out Good Company, a little bit outside of downtown. Almost wish I could swing by again on my way to the airport, but I'd rather finish this live. And I'm kind of full right now. They have good bagel sandwiches here, too. The bagels and lox. Yeah, everything very, very on point. All right, where are we at? I can get a ride within 7 minutes. I don't think I'm going to order it yet. I think I'm going to continue talking to you guys on this beautiful morning. I think that look at the standings is in order. The 49ers right now are the 7th seed in the NFC with 9 wins. Matches the Bears and the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks for the most wins in the conference. It's wild that the NFC West has 3 9-win teams. The 49ers and the Seahawks play Week 18. The Rams have, and the Seahawks both have some tough matchups coming up. They're the game between, I believe, LA and Detroit coming up in 2 weeks. That's the same week as the 49ers return to action against the Tennessee Titans. Let's look through everybody's schedule here. So Mike says, this is good. He says the 49ers could be the number 2 seed in week 14. Okay, wait. 49ers could be up to the number 2 seed the next time that the next time they take the field. If the Bears beat the Packers, so you got Green Bay and Chicago playing. So if the Bears beat the Packers, the Bears move to 10-3, they'd be the 1, and Green Bay would drop to 8-4-1, which would put them under the 49ers. The Cardinals beat the Rams. Now, I mean, that's a lot tougher to envision, but never say never. It is a divisional game, and the Rams, Matthew Stafford turns into an interception machine. Games can tilt against them, and the Falcons beat the Seahawks. Yeah, I mean, those 3 things, not likely to happen. Maybe one of them happens. Maybe if the 49ers get lucky, 2 of them happen. But if those 3 things happen, then the 49ers could catapult all the way up to the number 2 seed on their bye week. It also is possible that the Week 17 matchup with the Bears, which is on December 28th, 49ers against the Bears, ends up being for the 1 seed. The 49ers would have to continue to win. They would have to win out until then. The Seahawks would need to lose once. The Rams would need to lose once. And the Packers would need to lose once. I think that's much more likely, right? The 49ers ahead of that Chicago game, they're going to beat the Titans. I'd be shocked if they didn't. And then I think they're going to have a good chance to beat the Colts. It sounds like a hairline fracture, right, for Daniel Jones now. So anyway, before we get to the Colts game, let's look at the Seahawks and the Rams schedule, starting with the Rams. So the Rams, can you guys see this? Yeah, I hope you can. I hope that text worked. The Rams are playing the Cardinals. I highly doubt that The Rams are going to lose to the Arizona Cardinals, but then they play a game against the Detroit Lions at home. That's a losable game. And then at the Seattle Seahawks, that is on December 18th. That is looks like a Monday night game in week 16 for the Rams. So there are 2 losable games there for the Rams. Let's look back here. Let's go to the Seattle Seahawks upcoming schedule. They're at the Falcons versus the Colts. It's going to be a tough game for 2 NFC West teams. The Colts have already lost to the Rams, although it took a lot for the Rams to beat the Colts. It even took a very fluky fumble from the Colts to lose to the Rams. So they're going to challenge the Seahawks on December 14th, losable game. And then obviously the Seahawks play against the Rams at home in that primetime game on December 18th. Okay, really, really interesting. One more team would need to lose. The Packers would need to lose for the 49ers and the Bears to be for the 1 seed. So let's see what Green Bay has coming up. Green Bay is playing against the Bears. So obviously big game. That could drop them under the 49ers in the pecking order. And then they play at the Denver Broncos. Then they play at the Bears. So Green Bay plays the Bears twice in the next 3 weeks. And that is all ahead of 49ers Bears on December 28th. That is wild. So I think there is a very, very decent chance that the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Bears all drop at least one more game each before the 49ers and the Bears play on December 28th. The 49ers now can benefit from a bye, which means an automatic weekend without a loss for the 49ers, then essentially an automatic win against Tennessee. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but let's be honest. The 49ers need to smoke Tennessee. They're 1-11. And then it sets up 49ers and Indianapolis Colts on December 22nd, Monday Night Football back east. That is so compelling to me because if the losses happen that I talked about for the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Green Bay Packers, that game against the Colts figures to be what can propel the 49ers into a battle for the 1 seed on Sunday Night Football, December 28th at Levi Stadium. Isn't it crazy that it's gotten to this point? Isn't this certifiably wild? I mean, the final 3 games of this regular season for the 49ers are going to be like a movie. The Colts, 8-4. The Bears, currently 9-3. And then, if that's not enough for you, the grand finale against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, you know, we've been poking a lot of fun at Matthew Stafford and at casual fans over the course of the last 24 hours. This is one cherry on top that I think is amazing. I have a little bit of a sense of humor with this kind of stuff. You know, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo should now be starting for the Rams. Those are the rules. I didn't write them, but guess who is ahead of Matthew Stafford in terms of expected points added per play when we're ranking NFL quarterbacks based on efficiency? You may have guessed right. Brock Purdy is ahead of Matthew Stafford in terms of EPA per play. I've got the evidence for you right here. I just have to get it open up on the screen. But we've got the quarterback stats. And we have Purdy and Stafford. And we're going to get them both up on the screen. There you go. Top of the list, and this is the EPA and CPOE, completion percentage over expectation, the composite score. Drake May at top. We're going to get to see him tonight facing the New York Giants defense. Jordan Love is at number 2. Purdy at number 7. Stafford at number 9. And there you go. Mac Jones. Look at that. Number 11 for Mac, who's got 336 snaps already on this season. Anyway, just thought it was funny that Brock Purdy, despite the tough game against the Carolina Panthers, is actually ahead of Matthew Stafford in terms of efficiency. The rest of the media is going to drop the ball and just be counting raw yardage and touchdown passes and prematurely coronating Matt Stafford, even though a lot of quarterbacks have been more efficient than him, Brock Purdy included. But I will be happy to bring you guys the actual truth, the actual numbers, because I don't base my stuff on emotion. I base my analysis on actual facts. And I saw Matthew Stafford turn the ball over 3 times yesterday against the Carolina team that beat his Rams, the same Carolina team that took the ball away 3 times from Brock Purdy, but lost to the 49ers. How funny is that? Anyway, those are the quarterback rankings as we see them right now. Funny, isn't it? 3 weeks of top-tier football for the 49ers. And, I'm going to have a top-tier exit to the airport here. If I get on a ride right now, I will get to the airport at about 11:57 a.m., which is 13 minutes ahead of boarding. So I think that we're going to go ahead and order the ride. Double click here from the Hotel Cleveland to the Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Ride is ordered. I'm going to have to pack up the camera equipment. We'll see the driver details when up here, and I'm going to be sprinting downstairs. Hopefully the elevator shows up so we can make this in time. Just going to Nashville today, maybe San Francisco tomorrow. I'm considering, you guys need to give me some advice, yes or no. I'm considering going to Japan on Wednesday. It's the bye week. Should I go to Japan on Wednesday? Should we do a 49ers update from Tokyo? Is there a 49ers bar or something of that sort in Tokyo? Or anywhere in Japan? Is there something cool that I could do if I just decide to hop over to Japan? It's on the consideration list. I would need maybe some moral encouragement from some of you, because I'm not sure if I'm going to go yet or not. But I am very, very interested in heading to Japan here in a couple days. First, I need to get to San Francisco, because it's a lot easier to fly to Japan from the West Coast than it is from back east or the central time zone. All right. My driver is arriving in 7 minutes. So it's Brittany. Brittany's going to be driving me in a Toyota Corolla hybrid all the way to the Cleveland airport. So I'm going to have to leave here in a couple, but I'll answer a couple of questions. People want me to go to Japan. Might be a little, I don't know if Lombardi herself is going to be able to make it. It might be a little solo trip. Just swing on out to Japan for a few days. The smile on Garrett's face says it all when it comes to Brock's ability to escape the sack. You know, Brock Purdy, I was watching today. He was frustrating Myles Garrett, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Brock Purdy reminds me a little bit of prime Russell Wilson, who can actually see and deliver to the middle of the field. Russell Wilson's biggest weakness was always that he couldn't see the middle of the field. He didn't take advantage of the most important part of the field for efficiency. So he had a lot of spectacular escapes and great throws downfield, and he threw a great kind of moonshot, rainbow, deep pass. But the efficiency on the crossing patterns for Russell Wilson and on some of the slant work and, just some of the bread and butter short to intermediate game wasn't there, because I think he was a little too short to be able to throw over the middle of the field. Purdy isn't much taller than Russell Wilson, but for whatever reason, he probably has a little bit more suddenness in his movement, so maybe he can create vision lanes for himself. He's deadly efficient throwing over the middle of the field. He's got a little bit more Drew Brees in him when it comes to his ability to pick apart the defense at the spots that are going to be the most efficient. He does have the escapability, though, that Russell Wilson had, and that's what frustrated Myles Garrett so much in that game yesterday. Don't go to Japan if Mrs. Lombardi can't go. Well, we got to figure it out. I'll have to convince her. Maybe she can still be convinced. She's really tired right now, so we'll see. But the season has taken a toll. To get a little bit more energy, I like to travel. Especially since I got a bye week and I got a few days here to hop on over there. I've never been to Japan, so if anybody's in Japan, you guys can let me know in the comment section if I do go. All right, any more questions? Ooh, we got some sports bars in Japan that we could visit if I head there. Maybe make it out to a sumo wrestling match. No update on Brandon Ayuk. I think we're going to have one probably Monday, probably next week. All right. Uber's 4 minutes away, or Lyft is 4 minutes away. Brittany's picking me up, taking me to the airport. Everybody, thanks for watching. Make sure you check out the San Francisco Standard. The piece on Brock Purdy is up there. Everybody take care.